sheep, docile creatures grazing the nation's pasture and ranges. They're mostly defenseless on their own, and they can fall easy prey to this fellow. One of the most persistent predators of livestock and the cause for the deaths of up to 10% of the total domestic sheep and lamb flocks in the United States, the quick and clever coyote. Each year, predation costs sheep producers millions of dollars. It's an expense that remains an irritating reality to most of the livestock industry. Coyotes represent a large portion of the predation problem, but they're not the only killers. Black bears, domestic dogs, and other predators play havoc as well. Traditional methods of dealing with predation include trapping, shooting, and toxicants. In 1972, the United States government banned most uses of poisons for controlling predators on rangelands. This action caused researchers to look for additional methods to deal with predators. One technique is a new look at an ancient form of sheep protection, the use of livestock guarding dogs. For about 7 years, beginning in 1977, USDA scientists at the U.S. Sheep Experiment Station near DuBois, Idaho, studied the effectiveness of guard dogs for repelling predators. Wildlife biologist Dr. Jeff Green with USDA's Animal Damage Control.
And the dog project was one of many that we worked on with general coyote control research. We looked at various non-lethal methods to control predation. And guarding dogs just happened to be one of those techniques that seemed to work pretty well, and we've taken it from there now, from research to actual use by the livestock producer.
Bred for centuries to stay with and guard sheep, these dogs have proven to be an effective means to curb predation in many situations. A guard dog, being alert and often potentially aggressive, will confront all intruders, even bears, while protecting and staying near its flock. Unlike herding dogs, whose job it is to move sheep, guard dogs work as their title implies, simply guarding and protecting sheep. While herding dogs perform their tasks according to a handler's signal, guard dogs act independently of people. They have little instinct for herding. There are several breeds of guarding dogs used today. Popular breeds include Great Pyrenees, Commodores, Anatolian Shepherds, and Akbash dogs, all having inherent protective behavior with livestock. The behavioral differences and the rate at which these dogs mature is due partially to their genetic makeup. Commodores and Anatolian Shepherds seem to mature more slowly than the Great Pyrenees, but Great Pyrenees are generally less aggressive than other breeds. Certain bloodlines have their strengths and weaknesses. However, there are no guarantees with any one breed. Success comes with the owner's patience and willingness to properly rear and care for the dog. If you're considering the purchase of a guard dog, a little research before buying will pay off.
When a livestock producer calls me and asks about guarding dogs, I'll ask him several questions about his operation. First of all, whether he has a farm flock or a range operation, how many sheep he has, what kind of predator losses he's experiencing, and what other predator control techniques he uses, whether he has professional help, and try to get a good picture of his operation. And then if he's decided that he'd like to try a dog, I'll help him locate a pup. I'll give him some names of breeders who have contacted me and told me they've got pups available. And then I'll give him some information about how to raise the pup. I'll send him literature. I'll even visit him on his operation if it's practical, and just tell him what to do to bring that pup up from a young dog to a mature guardian.
It's important to purchase a guard dog from a reputable breeder. A proven track record for quality dogs can save an owner time and money. Some dog breeders are livestock producers as well, and some offer guarantees.
And he said no.
Joy Stokowski, a livestock producer and guard dog breeder, offers some advice for first-time buyers.
If you're looking for your first dog, just make sure that you're working with a reputable breeder, that he's knowledgeable about sheep, that the parents have been x-rayed for hip dysplasia, and then that knowledgeable breeder can fill you in on what points to look for in that pup to check bite, conformation, and pigment.
The age of a pup is also important, as explained by Dr. Jeff Green.
We purchase the dogs from commercial dog breeders at about 7 to 8 weeks of age. And that's the critical time to place the young pup with sheep in what we call the socialization phase or the bonding phase. So from that time forward, essentially, the dog is to be with sheep, and that's to be the focus rather than the human-to-dog focus.
The gender of the pup becomes a factor only when considering other dogs in the livestock operation. Otherwise, the choice of male or female is a matter of personal preference. Once the dog is selected, neutering or spaying is recommended. A question often asked is how many guard dogs are needed to safeguard each flock. The number varies and is dependent upon the style of the operation. With a range band consisting of 1,000 ewes plus their lambs, 2 dogs are recommended. For most pasture operations, 1 dog may be sufficient. However, for large pastures with rough topography, more than 1 dog may be desirable. Another factor to consider is the behavior of the sheep. If they flock well, they're easier for a single dog to protect. In most situations, particularly for first-time users, it's best to start with 1 dog. If additional dogs are needed, they can be added later. Sometimes the older established dog acts as a role model for the newcomer. Remember, it's important to raise the new 7 to 8 week old pup with sheep. This allows for the formation of strong attachments to sheep rather than people. The socialization process is best accomplished in a small pen or corral where a single pup is held with several sheep, preferably lambs. All the sheep must eventually become familiar with the dog. Spot check daily, making sure neither the dog nor the sheep are too aggressive. Keep in mind that some pups might exhibit rough play with the sheep. This should be closely monitored and corrected, since it can lead to serious problems later on. Some contact, however, between dog and sheep is desirable because it strengthens the dog-to-sheep bond. Typically, at about 16 to 20 weeks of age, the pup should be ready to be placed in a larger area with the rest of the flock.
There's really no set time when a dog is ready to go out on the range. Basically, you have to see if the dog is physically capable of keeping up with the sheep. Is it big enough to hold its own maybe if a coyote happens by? And we generally say from 4 to 6 months of age that you could start placing this dog out with the band or with the flock and letting it be integrated.
Using dogs in open range operations requires special tactics. An ideal time to place a dog with range sheep is when the sheep are confined in a pasture or fenced-in area, such as after lambing. It's important that range sheep are accustomed to the presence and activities of a guard dog before leaving the pasture. This may take several days to several weeks. Through all phases of dog rearing, careful monitoring of the dog's behavior is advised. Dogs that receive too little human contact can become fearful of people. Guard dogs and herding dogs can be effectively managed as long as they properly learn their respective roles. Guard dogs represent a significant economic value. Owners should remember to give considerable care to the safety and health of the dog.
It's very important to maintain a good health routine with your dogs. We recommend having a veterinarian check your dog annually or whatever for worms if that's a problem in your area. Make sure the dog gets its annual vaccination boosters, distemper, parvo, lepto, and rabies and so on. And make sure that the teeth are checked, make sure that the bite continues to be good and the buildup of hair around the ears. Some of the coats of these dogs need to be groomed or thinned out in the spring, especially the Commodore and the Great Pyrenees. Either clip them or shear them or comb them out so that hair doesn't mat up and create hot spots and irritations to the skin. Some areas, grass-ons might get into the toes or around the ankles, and just make sure the dog is routinely checked. Watch for porcupine quills, because many dogs will get into a porcupine. You may need to tranquilize the dog or have a vet do that to remove the quills, but make sure that it gets done.
A well-cared-for guard dog can have a productive lifespan of from 6 to 10 years. However, premature and accidental deaths frequently occur. Now, these deaths can be decreased by alerting neighbors that you're using a guarding dog, by keeping the dog away from roads, and by safely transporting the dog to and from the range. A healthy, well-trained guard dog can sometimes dramatically reduce the incidence of predation. Dick Reese, a sheep herder for the University of Idaho, emphasizes the potential value of a livestock guarding dog.
Well, the record speaks for itself. And since I've had these guard dogs, as soon as we turned the sheep out this spring, I got these 2 dogs, and I haven't lost one ewe or lamb from predator.
A longtime sheep herder, Virgil Triplett, also with the University of Idaho.
These dogs, they can't catch a coyote, but the presence of the dog being there, those coyotes will not come in. They won't come. They don't bother you. And anytime you can cut your death loss down 70, 80, 90%, don't tell me that these are not worth their weight in marshmallows.
The mission of animal damage control is to protect American agriculture from wildlife damage. And we want to do that using methods that are environmentally sound, economically practical, and effective. Guarding dogs can be a part of that protection. We recommend using any control that is effective and legal and can do the job. Whether it's things you do on your own as far as managing your livestock, guarding dogs would be a part of that, electric fences, and then use the services of professional ADC specialists to remove persistent depredating coyotes, let them come in and use lethal controls to remove the coyotes that are really doing the damage. Guarding dogs can help by keeping incidental predation minimized and also overall protecting your flock around the clock.
Protecting these sheep is what's really important. Using a variety of control tactics has proven to be the best defense against predation. A properly reared guarding dog can give you the edge that makes the difference.